champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here! The champ is here!
I know National Signing Day was yesterday, and I have a lot of comments and messages and stuff to make a video about signing day. You can Google the signing day class rankings. I'm not a recruiting expert, so I can't come on here and tell you, well, oh man, Texas A&M, has this player and that player. Look, the SEC dominated signing day yet again. Is that news? No. Texas A&M had the #1 class. Is that news? Well, yeah, that's news, because a lot of people are trying to make it news that they somehow did something wrong. Texas A&M did nothing wrong. Texas A&M did nothing wrong. Texas A&M took advantage of the new NIL rules, which is no rules at all. There are no rules. The only real rule is that the school can't give a kid any money. Boosters, donors, these outside groups that are associated with the school through boosters clubs or alumni associations, they can pretty much do whatever they want. I don't really understand the crying and complaining from people, including some other SEC head coaches, Lane Kiffin, that are crying about Texas A&M's recruiting class. The only thing I understand less than people complaining about Texas A&M's recruiting class is Jimbo Fisher giving a press conference where he's acting all pissed off about it and saying that it's not true. Like, oh, no, people come to Texas A&M because of the culture and because of the 12th man and because College Station is an amazing place to live. Stop it, please. Texas A&M signed 7 5-stars this year, okay? In Jimbo Fisher's entire time at Texas A&M, they've signed like 4. They've signed like 4 5-stars total in the previous 5 years. They signed 7 this year. Of course, it's the name, image, and likeness situation. And I'm not saying that to knock Texas A&M. This is what you have to do when things change, when rules change, when regulations change, whatever it is in whatever industry. You have to change and adapt to those new rules and regulations, right? It's like when they banned hits to the head in football. Those of you that are my age, I'm in early 40s, a receiver running across the middle 20 years ago was asking to get his head taken off. And those were the hits that led SportsCenter every week. You would see some safety cutting a wide receiver in half on a post route or an in route, a deep in route over the middle. They came out and they said, we're not going to allow those hits anymore. No targeting. You can't go for the head, the whole defenseless receiver deal. That would be like just ignoring that and continuing to get targeting penalty after targeting penalty after targeting penalty, and then complaining about the teams that aren't getting the targeting penalties because they changed what they were doing. That's what you have to do with NIL. The college football landscape has changed. Jimbo Fisher and Texas A&M didn't do anything wrong. They are out in front, okay? Until there is regulation brought in to control or tamp down what's going on with name, image, and likeness money and how it can be used and who it can be given or promised to, it's the wild, wild west. So I don't blame Texas A&M, but Jimbo shouldn't come out and act like, kids are just lining up around the block to come to College Station for some particular reason. I mean, it's pretty clear how Texas A&M figured out or ended up with the #1 class. And again, that's great. That's great. Alabama finished 2nd. Georgia finished 3rd. Top 10, loaded with SEC teams. Florida had its worst recruiting class since 2015. Worst recruiting class since 2015. Wow. And they're singing the praises down there, too. Now, we'll see. They did bring some people in through the portal and all that. You know who else really racked up in the portal? Ole Miss. I think I've made up my mind about the portal in terms of who it's going to help or hurt the most. Yes, your teams that recruit in the top 4 and 5 every single year, Ohio State, Alabama, Georgia, whatever teams you want to name. Yes, they are going to lose players every single year to the portal because they're so backloaded with bench players that would be playing almost anywhere else. It's just natural it's going to happen. Now, who's going to benefit from those transfers? Well, the same teams, really. The elite players in general are going to leave one elite program and go to another. So it's almost like a wash there, right? Last year, Georgia brings in 3 of the top 10 portal recruits of last offseason: Eric Gilbert, Tyke Smith, Darion Kendrick. This year we lose some. Maybe next year we bring more. It's going to balance itself out. I think who the portal is really going to help the most is the really good teams, but that aren't great, right? Ole Miss, great season this past year, won, I believe, 10 games, right? Never going to be able to consistently recruit within the top 5 or 10, in my opinion, even with name, image, and likeness. Because, let's be real. Mississippi, not a very big media market. Not that they're not going to get any name, image, and likeness money, but it's not Texas. Anyway, they're always going to be on the outside looking in terms of top recruiting classes year after year after year after year, which is what you have to consistently have a top 5 or 10 program before the transfer portal. I think your teams like Ole Miss, your teams that are winning, 8, maybe 9, 10, 11 games in that range there, I think that's who's really going to benefit the most from the portal. You look at what Ole Miss has brought in, the quarterback there, several great players they've brought in this year through the portal. I'm just using them as an example, but you guys know the types of program. I would call them second-tier programs, and that's not an insult, right? I think you've got like your top-tier program list. Put whoever you want in that list, right? Alabama, Clemson, Georgia, Ohio State, Oklahoma before they lost all their coaches and all their players. Whatever teams and however many teams you want to have in that top list, put those teams there. I'm not going to argue about who should be in there and who shouldn't. Then you have like a second tier of teams. I think that's the group of teams I think that is going to benefit the most from the transfer portal. They've got really good teams, not great teams. Maybe they're missing a player or two here or there. They can go out and get somebody, bring them in from the portal, and maybe go from winning, 9 or 10 games a year to winning a division title out of the blue or a conference title, something like that. I'm not saying, I'm not making a prediction that Ole Miss is winning the SEC West or the SEC. I do prediction videos way later on. I'm just sort of throwing examples out there. Yeah, so signing day was yesterday, and man, it's so anticlimactic now, the February signing day. You almost forget it's happening, really. You almost forget it's happening because what is it, like 95% of the top 300 high school recruits sign in December? There's just not a lot of bang left for the February signing day anymore because you've got so many players committing early in December so they can enroll at the schools and go through spring practice and all that kind of thing. So the February signing day is not really what it used to be. And I think they're going to be making some changes to the signing periods too, in terms of when they happen. That signing day is at a terrible time in December. You got teams preparing for conference championship games or bowl games or playoff games a week before that first signing day. So if you're not preparing for a conference championship game or a bowl game, you could spend that week out on the recruiting trail instead of on campus coaching your team. But it just comes at a strange time. It seems like we have enough going on in the world of college football in December, right? Conference championship games, the playoff announcements that come after the conference championship games, all your bowl games, your playoff games. It seems like we've got enough going on in college football during the month of December. Couldn't they do something with signing day, move it somewhere where there's not a lot going on? That's one thing that's a place probably where college football has kind of dropped the ball a little compared to some of the professional sports. Professional sports figured out a long time ago, you need to try to make your sport year-round. Not that you play games year-round. No one plays games year-round, although baseball tries as hard as they can, 100 and however many games they play. By the time you play the playoffs, you played 180-something games. Ridiculous. But college football's done a bad job of that. Media days is in July. The season starts the end of August. You play your games through December. Bowl games in December in the first week of January. And then it's over. You have basically 5 months. And then signing day in February. Spring games in March and April. Nothing in May, June, July. They need to spread some of that stuff out. And I think enough people, coaches especially, don't like the way the signing periods are falling now. The other thing is if you're a school that's looking to make a change at head coach at the end of a season, you've got 2 weeks before signing day. What do? Do you keep the coach through the December 13th signing day so the recruits don't get nervous and decommit, then piss all the recruits that signed off when you fire the coach the next day? Or do you fire your head coach as soon as the season ends so that you can have a head coach hired by December 13th to try to assure those recruits that are committed that, this is where we're headed. We know what we're doing. We've got our coach in place. It seems very rushed. It just seems very rushed. So I do think there'll be some changes made to the whole entire signing day situation eventually. But your usual suspects had good recruiting classes. Notre Dame had a good recruiting class. Southern Cal, good recruiting class. Oklahoma, kind of surprisingly to me, a good recruiting class. LSU, a good recruiting class. Who didn't have good recruiting classes? Well, Florida, 9th. In the SEC, worst since 2015. Clemson didn't have a bad recruiting class, but it's the worst recruiting class they've had in 5 or 6 years. Now, Florida being 9th, it's still a top 20 class nationally. Florida 9th in the SEC, Clemson, Florida 9th in the SEC, top 20 nationally. So it's not a terrible class overall, but Florida hasn't been 9th in the SEC in recruiting since 2015. Clemson, another team, had a good recruiting class nationally, but comparatively speaking to the recruiting classes that Clemson has had the previous 4 or 5 years, didn't really live up to the hype. Missed the mark on some players. But anyway, so that's my thoughts on signing day. Again, very anticlimactic, I think, in my opinion. Call-in show tonight, though, so give me a call tonight. You can let me know what you think about signing day. You can tell me the kids that you're excited about committing to your particular school, and we'll go from there. Call-in show probably start around 9 o'clock tonight. And, for those of you that made it to the end of this video, let me know in the comment section down below, has Auburn's head coach Brian Harsin been fired yet?